All right. Hello and hello, everybody. Thank you and joining us today for today's webinar. And my name is Mehdi, and I'm the marketing coordinator at Perfect Video Conferencing and Dynamic Collaboration Solutions, or as you know as DCS Global. Today, we are going to be presenting BYOD, Bring Your Own Device, which gives us the flexibility that is required in most of our video conferencing deployments. They are now also used commonly to help create a safe workplace today. And just a little housekeeping rules before we get started. If you have any questions during this presentation, please type them into the Q&A button right below on your Zoom control panel. I will bring them up during the presentation. And also we have time at the end for Q&A. And you can also chat with us directly if you have a specific question. Also, at the end, we'll have a recorded version of this webinar that will be sent via email, and we'll be posting it shortly in our LinkedIn page. And for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, welcome. And our next webinar in August will be focused on our second series of DCS Global's informative webinars, and the focus will be on the kiosk software and the amazing things you can do with them. And also today we have a special guest speaker, Chuck McDonald from Jenny Distributors. He is a long-term engineer and has been involved in BYOD and has witnessed the disasters as well as the integration of devices over the years. Now, without further ado, I want to turn the time over to Randy Marcotte. He is the CIO at PBC and DCS Global with 25 years of IT experience. And Randy, the mic is all yours.
Thanks, Mehdi. Part of the logistics too is that I have then sent the chat command to let people, there are a number of people who are in anonymously that we might bring them into chat. So please keep an eye on that as the meeting progresses. Those of you who have registered, you're live on chat. You're welcome to enter what you want. And I know for recording purposes, Mehdi, I just want to validate that you can see the screen just fine. You good?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Good. And then let's spotlight video so that we reduce the clutter. So as Mehdi mentioned, I've been in the industry, she said 25 years out loud, made my head scratch a little bit, but yes, I've been doing this technology work not only for work purposes, but for passion. And I've watched a lot of the disasters. And so when Chuck, Mehdi, and I were talking about what we're seeing as people are coming back to the office, it's this trend of having rooms become more flexible. So the outcome for today is to keep it under 30 minutes. These quick recordings then go out in kind of our LinkedIn and social pages, and they're designed so that you can use these recordings with your stakeholders internally to inform decisions. And so what you won't hear today is a huge sales pitch about how wonderful we are. You can call us and have that meeting, or how amazing the technology is, because you'll test it if you're thinking about buying it. What we want to have as the outcome today is a spirited, focused conversation about the common pitfalls, and then what a subject matter expert like Chuck has seen, from our distribution channel in the trending and the changes over time. So that ultimately is the goal. We do have some polling questions we may want to load in. And then certainly, because these webinars are intended to be small, we oftentimes just open the mic and have more of a round robin conversation about this. It doesn't need to be us presenting to you. It can be all of us sort of informing the decisions that are made. But ultimately, again, just want to, because you registered, I wanted to talk a little bit about the outcomes for today. So we're leaving time for some engagement directly, either on this webinar or after, because we do host roundtable discussion forums. We get out of the way, we facilitate a conversation, and our clients talk to clients, because it's usually the easiest way for us, an IT director, facilities manager, or CIO to help with talking to a value-added reseller or a value-added partner like DCS and PVC is useful. But talking to a colleague or a peer is better, and we'd be glad to help facilitate those. We also promised to send out a selection guide. There's a number of bring your own device pick lists that are out there that we get as resellers and partners. We're glad to hand those over to you so you can do some self-sorting and some elimination. There are a lot of options out there. We can engage with us to help you choose wisely, but we also want to make sure that you have the tools and resources available to you so that we get out of your way. Great. As Mehdi mentioned, former CEO of Perfect Video Conferencing, we've merged with DCS Global. I enjoy these webinars because for me, it's an opportunity to sharpen my knowledge set and focus the goals for a customer. And I do that by listening. And so we do that by being a partner. So our values as a company are partnership, innovation, and value. And as that partner, we're really here to make sure that your end user, your internal clients are the priority. So if we're not asking you questions about what do you need to service your internal customers and how do you service your business better, and if we're talking about product, kick us out because we shouldn't be at the table. What we know about technology is that the toilet needs to flush. No one really wants to get into a lot of great detail about how or why the toilet flushes, but you need to get the sort of the problems of a conferencing room solved quickly and immediately, so that your end users just go in and work their magic. The bathroom metaphor doesn't really work all that well for a conference room when you say that, but you get my point, is that the how and the why sometimes is irritating to an end user. So what we want to really do is work with you for the simplicity in the room. And then ultimately the point of this webinar, avoid the disaster. The disaster has been because we haven't planned for sound or camera location, lighting. We haven't kept it simple or flexible. I could pontificate about that clearly, but I'm going to let Chuck do a little bit more of the how we got to the space we are. But ultimately, it's about balancing your stakeholders. So 10 years ago, it was about choosing the right product, and almost as an edict from above, telling the community what we were doing as an organization and what they would do in the conference room. Because the choices were expensive, they weren't as flexible as they are today, and they were rigid in the sense of choosing a Cisco or a life-size Polycom bridge that had some capacity and finite capacity. So the resources were stretched, to say the least. And you could only do the one thing and hope for the best. But today we pick up our mobile devices, and I don't care which type of device you're on or which carrier you're with. I just make a call to you, and video conferencing has finally gotten to a point where that's the assumption too, is if we can FaceTime with our family, our pets, and our grandkids, why wouldn't we be able to do that at work? And COVID, and Chuck will talk a little bit about this, COVID has really amplified that. The return to work phenomenon for us has really helped us focus us. Our key stakeholders were IT directors and CIOs to help them make a good technology choice. Now our stakeholders are the kind of the wider spread in the business. And so mainly this kind of orange section where you engage with your end users. Our solutions are going to be based on use cases and the users in the room and their front door entry to the office space and their exit and their home office or their mobile device. So we're really interested in kind of what your goals are for the end users, the administrative side, the procurement, and the kind of the business components for us really are on par with that, but then take us a slightly backseat to the end users. Chuck, I'm going to pivot to you in a moment. So what I'd like to say sort of generally about Jenny Distributions, they've been one of the main reasons DCS and PBC have been successful over the years. It's a great partnership to have them be the distributor and the pulse taker of trends in the market. And that's where I've leaned on Chuck for many, many years to know what's coming, not only from a manufacturer or supply chain capacity, but really as a subject matter expert to do design and pre-sale support. And he's been a long-term advocate for innovation and distribution, which is why we're pleased to have him here. So, and he's on a personal note, he's doing this from vacation. So Chuck, thank you very much for being here. And I know you're passionate about this. So I turn this over to you, sir.
Great. Thanks, Randy. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I am on vacation, coming to you from beautiful Seattle, Washington. It's great to be able to join you. Just to pick up on what Randy said, you know, if you look at excuse me. Of course, I have a little frog in my throat when it's my turn to speak. I put this picture on the screen, and it looks old and fuzzy, and that's by design, because that's the way video conferencing used to be. It used to be very complicated. Room systems cost anywhere from 15 to 20,000 and up. To do a call like we're doing today with the number of people we have on, it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in video infrastructure. You would have to have a dedicated person for video conferencing, and he would have to do test after test to see, what codec you were using, what firewall ports need to be open, what the heck is a gatekeeper anyway. So we've come a long way, and I'll show the progression here where we've come. But where we started was a very expensive proposition that not everybody could participate in. And one of the things that you'll hear from a lot of the vendors and platforms is meeting equity. We want to have everybody be able to have access to this technology. So next slide. So yeah, so thankfully, these companies, we started moving to the cloud. So some of that high infrastructure cost was able to be absorbed by some of the platform vendors, like what we're using today, Zoom, BlueJeans, and it was easier to scale and do larger conferences. But that's the technology, the room systems themselves still were, over $10,000. They required knowledge of, like I said, firewall ports, and not everybody had access to this type of technology because it's still expensive, and these specialized appliances that we had were not deployed everywhere. But of course, 2020 changed everything. Next slide. So yeah, when COVID happened, we shut down. We had nobody was going to the office, kids weren't going to school, and even families were separated. So we had this real need. We had to do video conferencing to keep things going, and it became, webcams became in high demand, and the one thing that came out of this, and it's very small, I don't want to give COVID too much credit, but the one thing is people became more comfortable with video conferencing. Being able to be on camera was really a necessity and something we had to do to keep the wheels running in our society, in corporation, schools, and just even personal connections. So now, a couple years later, we have a hybrid workforce that, we have employees that are demanding to work from home or working part-time from home. So we're still in the situation where not every conference room, every huddle room has video capability. Not everybody has access to video still. So we're seeing a huge demand for it. And so there's really the need for simpler solutions. I'll go to the next slide.
As I transition there too, Chuck, I know, Mehdi, there were some polling items that we had queued up. I don't know if you wanted to feed those in now, and then I got a direct chat to ask Chuck, how do we define the bring your own device? I'm going to feed that in right now before I go to your next slide, just to be clear. The bring your own disaster are these rooms that either shackle a user into a platform, and then the disaster for us is they're in a Microsoft Teams room and they go in and they have a Zoom room call that they have to jump into, and suddenly you have 5 people huddled around a laptop, and you've got a $10,000 room sitting in front of you, and it's stuck in one modality. Or the disaster is the audio's crap or the lighting's crap, and kind of all the traditional AV disasters that are well known. The dongle doesn't work. That's the disaster. The bring your own device is the flexibility of a room, so that the room is stable and the platform is flexible. There'll be a lot more about that, but yeah, because I got a direct message about that, I figured I'd answer it. Mehdi, did you want to skip the polling based on time, or did you want to launch those polls? Your call.
Let's see. Let's skip the polling for now.
Sure.
Chuck is covering everything that we need here.
As he usually does. Thanks, Chuck. So here you go.
Mhm.
Here's your next slide.
All right. So, I was I was actually away from the industry for a couple of years due to COVID, and when I came back, I was just astonished in the quick transition of 2 years, where we went from what I was talking about, specialized appliances, now we're seeing a transformation almost overnight from these expensive systems to really relatively affordable devices that use either Windows compute or an Android device. And we've seen a kind of a dominance in the market by platforms like Microsoft Teams, and of course Zoom has continued to grow. And with Zoom now, they've become kind of more like Microsoft Teams, and they offer phone service and whiteboards, and so there's kind of two big players out there. There's more, but Microsoft Teams and Zoom really are, 1 and 2 in my mind. We'll talk about some of the others, but I'll go to the next slide.
Chuck, I got a direct question to me from Jeff that asked order of magnitude, how many rooms do you build a month? And of those, how many are BYOD enabled? So we're a mid-size reseller. So in July, we built 400 rooms because we had one large project that landed 400 rooms. On average, as far as conference rooms goes, we're doing 20 to 30 a month, and about half of them are BYOD. So not all rooms are we have some clients who 100% of the rooms have a way of switching from platform A to platform B. But it's not a must do everywhere. And so just think to Jeff's question, it was like, does this get more expensive? Doesn't have to, and doesn't have to be everywhere. That's choiceful, Jeff, and that will be something we can talk to you offline. But I wanted to, anytime I get a question like that, Chuck, I just kind of want to feed it in. So
and you might see, where Randy might have not had 400 deployments in the previous generation, but now he has people are buying in bulk. It's amazing. They're outfitting every rooms. And this slide is a little bit of an eye
I
chart.
broke your transition. Sorry about that, Chuck.
I had a little bit of a transition, but the point here is that there's different platforms like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet Google's investing more in Google Meet. There's GoToMeeting, and there's others out there. The slide kind of had a couple of transitions where there are a lot of different sizes rooms, from a small huddle space up to a training room. There are all types of sizes and appliances out there that can fit each one of these. And Microsoft and Zoom basically do keep a tight rein on those and what's certified, because they want the experience to be good. They want the experience to be equal across their platform. So everybody, again, you'll hear the term meeting equity. They want everybody to have an equal say in whether they're working from home, they're working on the road like I am, or they're in an office. And you're seeing some really innovative things on technology with cameras and the different modes that you can do to have everybody look an equal size. You can also use these devices that are designed for Teams and Zoom in a BYOD mode, so you can go from one to the other. Next slide.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, for a follow-up. His question was like, do they have to be in a platform, or can they be? I think what Jeff is looking for is something that is agnostic. So there is a fork in the road. We mostly recommend an enterprise will choose a platform, like a Teams or WebEx or Zoom or LifeSize. You choose a baseline that's consistent, and then you give flexibility. But absolutely, the model of USB flexibility can be that the peripherals, the camera, the microphone, the speaker, are sitting in a waiting mode until such time as you bring your own laptop. You would then need to choose those peripherals. So it's just like choosing a headset versus an onboard microphone. The rooms can be enabled to do nothing until there's a plug-in. That adds some complexity, Chuck, which I think is a fine transition to this legacy Polycom remote. So go ahead.
I don't know if anybody recognizes this remote, but anyway, I'm sure you're familiar with remotes in general. They're kind of a pain. This one's a bit of an eye chart because it has so many buttons. People didn't know what to do. But now, once we get rid of this remote control, you'll see that most of these different vendors have gone to touch panels, and they've made it so easy with where you can integrate with like a platform like Teams or Zoom, and all you do is go in and press join the meeting. No more complicated remotes. You can control, typically you can control the cameras and things from the touch panel itself. So I'll go ahead and switch to the next slide. One of the things, and this gets a little bit to one of the questions, is do we have to have a platform? Absolutely not. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want with these devices. However, you got to keep in mind as an organization, who knows how to connect to every platform when they walk in the room. There's a temptation to want to connect to everything anytime, but we're kind of recommending that you think about joining like a Teams or Zoom or WebEx, because now they have direct guest join, where all you have to do is send a meeting invite to the platform that you want to join as a guest, and it'll show up on their touch panel or show up, and all you can do is press the join button on the screen. So having that's a little easier for people who may not be tech savvy, who know how to, connect to anything, anytime. But you certainly have the ability. Most of these hardware vendors do have a BYOD mode that you can bypass the platform that you've been on, and say join. If you're on a Teams, you can walk in the room using this BYOD device that's built into it and join a Google Meet. So it's not impossible, and I think I'm just so excited about this because, one, we're seeing mass deployments in every room. We're seeing meeting equity, so that everybody has a stake and a say in a video room, whether they're from home or in the office. And I think it's even just a better time in video altogether.
Yeah, I think I'll piggyback that a little bit, Chuck, to say, and I know we're transitioning to sort of the wrap-up phase of this, but what I was proselytizing when I founded Perfect Video Conferencing, and then when I met the DCS Global team, is, we at a life-size conference, we're all planning, like, everyone must believe in what we believe in, and we were trying to get every conference room or every space to be video enabled because they were collaborative. COVID did what we were trying to do for 20 years in 2 years, right? So thank you. I'm not sure that's what I want to say to the COVID virus, but it has improved people's understanding of why we should enable collaboration. But the scope of collaboration is absolutely expanded. So there's screens that are now touch enabled, cameras that can go to a simple analog dry erase and send that to the video call. And so what we do in the conference rooms becomes more about the experience of collaboration than it is the experience of the technology. And I think that's the key improvement that Chuck and I have witnessed, is that for many parts of this, before we had the kind of the USB flexibility or the kit-based certifications from the manufacturers, you were stuck in a manufacturing lane with the feature set that was the horse race between manufacturers. And so it was the provider of the hardware that was driving the conversation, and that's completely gone now. The experience of the room and the needs of the end users and the quality of the collaboration is now finally driving the experience. And most people are still just thinking about sound and cameras. And so what we want to expand that conversation to be is the communications, the collaborations, the documentation, the equity. And so if I'm writing on the wall, why would I take a crappy camera and point it at the wall? Why wouldn't I just broadcast that like a slideshow like this to that? And there's, Logitech makes them, Captivo, Lifesize makes them, and a number of people, Hudley Cam will do it. So there's a number of cameras that can capture your whiteboard. There's microphones that you can recess in the ceiling that no one sees them, but then captures every corner of the room. So your loud talkers like me get heard, and your soft talkers get heard. And so that you don't need the technology to be a barrier to entry. And then the idea of, like, if you're writing it or if you're doing it, why wouldn't you share it? And it's not just about the conference room anymore. There's also kiosk or digital signage, and that's one of the big reasons why we merged with DCS Global, is because we had been thinking very much of the real estate of a conference room for equity, communications, collaboration. What happens when you walk into a building and you're trying to find your way around, or what happens when you check in at reception and you're trying to get an enhanced experience? That's where these kiosks or this wayfinding technology will play a role for you. So bringing your own device is also a question about bringing your own experience into the room. Lastly, I know we're waiting quite frankly to what the end user is saying, and the biggest trend we're seeing, or people can do anything they want on these devices, and why shouldn't this device then track and map the experience of the conference room? And so most of the manufacturers are planning for kind of tap technology, where if I'm outside the room and there's a scheduler outside the room, I can do that tap, sync to my calendar, or tell it which meeting I want, and then the room will change to Teams, or the room will change to Zoom, so that I have a one button start, even as a guest, into those conferencing spaces. We're seeing that a lot in those co-working spaces. But as far as the next steps for y'all, we want to be your partner on this, but we do have some recommendations. Pay attention to your end users. Ultimately, you probably own budget, design, and cycles, but your end users can create mutiny. So just start with some satisfaction with the end users, and we'll be glad to survey them. Mehdi, I am seeing a couple of things coming in through chat, and I'll try to feed those in, but if you want to at the end, that's great. Just saw a couple of pings there. Ask for help, either from us or another reseller. That's what we're here for. Pick a lane, meaning there are 45 resellers in your region. Find a partner and create that partnership. Pick a hardware that you know is going to be useful to your end users, and maybe have that consistent between offices or different conference rooms. It's the hodgepodge approach can be a bit of a challenge. So having one manufacturer in one conference room, or one camera type in one conference room, one touch controller in one conference room, and then another in a different conference room, that it's easy to me and you as technology folks, but the end user, the fear of technology will have them just call IT, and we just don't want these things to be IT events, which is why we sort of generally say test, validate, and train. So you test the equipment with us, validate the end user experience of the company policy, and then let's train your end users in a way that gets consistent results. And then we can get you pick lists, checklists, evaluation criteria, testing methodologies, and standard design templates. Just as a courtesy to participating in this webinar, or as a courtesy to kicking the tires with us. We want to make sure that, again, we go back to that value-added partnership. We're just not a reseller. Good. Mehdi, the question that came into me through chat got canceled, so I think we're good on that. I didn't know if there was anything that came into you listing our contact information. We are at the 30-minute mark, so we can wrap up the Q&A and keep the recording tight, unless anything came in directly to you. A couple of people, the anonymous folks who were chatting with me directly, have said, thanks, you already answered the question. So I don't have any other Q&As. Mehdi, Chuck, I don't know if you got any directly to you. A vigorous head nod, no.
No.
Good.
All
Mehdi,
right.
anything coming to you?
Checking in. So far, no. They
Good.
have everything what they wanted here.
Paper, rock, scissors. Am I wrapping it up, Mehdi, or are you?
All yours.
Thanks. Great. Well, on behalf of the DCS Global and Perfect Video Conferencing team, thanks for watching the recording or showing up with good attendance. If you are interested in anything further, obviously we send some follow-ups. You'll see those. Chuck and my email is here. But really the next step for us is, if you need a resource, ask for it. If you have a question about the technology, we'll answer it, no charge. But then ultimately, if you want to meet one of the manufacturers or talk to any of our clients for referrals, or if you want to be part of one of the forums that we help support, just let us know, and we'd be glad to get you in those. Mostly you'll see us on LinkedIn, so take a look there. And then we're refreshing our website based on the merger, so poke around at that a little bit, and we'll see you online or in a future video conferencing call. Thanks for your time.